Yellowstone National Park is home to more than just magnificent wildlife and geysers. Beneath its surface lies one of the world's most powerful supervolcanoes that has the potential to wipe out life as we know it. So the question is, can we survive Yellowstone's fury, or will we be left picking up the pieces after it blows? Yellowstone National Park in the United States is renowned for its beauty, its dramatic canyons carved by the Yellowstone River, its vibrant geysers such as the famous Old Faithful, and its abundant wildlife make it a dream destination for nature lovers. However, what many visitors don't realize is that beneath this picturesque landscape lies a supervolcano capable of some of the most catastrophic damage on Earth. The Yellowstone supervolcano, located in the northwest corner of Wyoming, is one of the largest in the world. It's so massive that when it erupts, its impact is not only felt across the United States, but across the entire planet. In fact, the effects of a full-blown Yellowstone eruption would be so devastating that they could potentially wipe out all life on Earth. So how likely is it that this doomsday scenario will become a reality? To understand the potential impact of a Yellowstone eruption, we must first understand the volcano itself. Yellowstone's magma chamber is roughly 43 by 28 miles or 70 by 45 kilometers in size. This magma chamber feeds three active areas or calderas, which are essentially large volcanic craters. The largest is the Yellowstone caldera, also known as the Upper Geyser Basin, which contains the geysers and hot springs that Yellowstone is famous for. The middle and lower geyser basins are also located here. The second caldera is the Norris Geyser Basin, which is known for its colorful hot springs, and is also home to the powerful Steamboat Geyser, which is the tallest active geyser in North America. Finally, the third caldera is the Heimers caldera, named after the geologist who discovered it. All three calderas are interconnected and form part of the Yellowstone supervolcano. Now let's talk about how big an explosion we're dealing with here. When an earthquake shook the region in 1985, scientists used it to measure the depth of the magma chamber. They found that it was 6 miles or 10 kilometers deep, which made them realize that they were dealing with something much larger than they had previously thought. If all of the magma in this chamber were to erupt at once, the resulting ash cloud would blot out the sun, triggering a nuclear winter that would kill off most life on Earth. The good news is that this scenario is highly unlikely to occur anytime soon. In fact, scientists estimate that there is only a 1 in 10 million chance of a full eruption happening in any given year. Nevertheless, it's still important to monitor the volcano closely, as smaller eruptions have occurred before and will likely occur again. The last major eruption happened about 13,000 years ago, while the most recent minor eruption happened just a few hundred years ago. Scientists have been studying the volcano since the early 1900s, and they continue to monitor it closely to this day. They use various methods to track any changes in the volcano's activity, such as seismic monitoring, which involves listening for earthquakes that may indicate magma movement, GPS monitoring to track any changes in the shape of the caldera, and aerial surveys to look for changes in the steam plume or other signs of activity. These monitoring efforts have helped scientists better understand the volcano and assess the risk it poses to the surrounding area. But what exactly would happen if the magma chamber were to empty completely? First, there would be a massive explosion that would release an enormous amount of energy. Ash and debris would shoot into the atmosphere, blocking out the sun and plunging the earth into darkness. Then came the ashfall. Hot ash and pumice would rain down over a vast area, burying everything in sight. The area around the volcano would be completely destroyed, and the surrounding states would receive several inches of ash. Even areas far away from the explosion would feel the effects as the ash cloud blocked sunlight and disrupted weather patterns. Plants would die, animals would perish, and humans would be left to scavenge for food and water. Those who survived the initial blast would likely die from starvation or disease in the aftermath. Only the hardiest of creatures would survive the nuclear winter that followed. And if they did, they would find themselves in a world vastly different from the one they knew before. So now let's say that we're prepared for this worst-case scenario. What if we had advanced warning of an impending eruption, and we were able to evacuate the surrounding areas in time? Well, even in that case, things wouldn't be pretty. First, there would be earthquakes. As the magma chamber began to empty, the pressure would cause the ground to shake, triggering earthquakes that could be felt hundreds of miles away. Roads would crack, and buildings would crumble, as people desperately tried to flee the danger zone. The U.S. Geological Survey would issue a series of increasingly urgent warnings as the danger became more apparent. A level 4 alert would signal that an eruption was imminent, and people would need to leave the area immediately. But with so many people visiting Yellowstone each year, evacuating the park and the surrounding areas would be no easy feat. Thousands of cars would jam the roads leading away from the park, making a harrowing journey through the smoke and ash. Some would make it out, but many would be trapped in their cars, coughing and choking on the fumes as the world around them turned to ash. And as for those who stayed behind, they would have to endure the wrath of the volcano. The air would grow thick with smoke and ash, making it hard to breathe. Buildings would be coated in a layer of soot, and the ground beneath their feet would rumble with the approaching doom. Then finally the eruption would begin. People would watch in awe and terror as a towering cloud of ash and gas shot into the sky, blotting out the sun and casting the world into darkness. As the cloud spread outwards, it would carry with it smaller rocks, pumice, and other debris. These would fall back to Earth in a rain of fire and destruction. Houses and other structures would be reduced to rubble, and the landscape itself would be forever changed. Those who survived the initial blast and the collapsing cloud would face a new set of challenges. With the air filled with ash and the land littered with debris, they would have to contend with poisonous gases, contaminated water, and a sky filled with falling rocks. Food and water would be scarce, and medical care would be impossible. Many would succumb to their injuries or illnesses, leaving those who survived truly alone in a world that had been wiped clean. But perhaps the most terrifying aspect of a Yellowstone eruption would be the aftermath. As the dust settled and the survivors emerged from their shelters, they would be greeted by a world unlike any they had ever seen before. The familiar landmarks would be gone, replaced by a barren wasteland of ash and rock. The sun, once a source of life and warmth, would be a distant memory, replaced by an oppressive darkness that seemed to suck the very hope from one's soul. Without the sun to regulate the Earth's temperature, the world would plunge into an ice age. Snow would blanket the land, making it difficult to find food or water. The survivors would be forced to band together in small groups, scavenging for resources and trying to rebuild some semblance of society. But the harsh conditions and the threat of further eruptions would make this a daunting task. Even if they managed to survive the winter, the long-term effects of the eruption would continue to haunt them. The ash and debris would continue to fall, contaminating the water supply and killing off crops. The air would be filled with dangerous gases, and the soil would be unable to support plant life. The survivors would be trapped in a cycle of fear and uncertainty, always looking over their shoulder at the volcano, always wondering when it would strike again. In conclusion, a full eruption of the Yellowstone supervolcano would indeed be a cataclysmic event that could potentially wipe out all life on Earth. While the chances of this happening anytime soon are incredibly low, it's still important to monitor the volcano closely. Smaller eruptions have occurred before and will likely occur again. And who knows what might happen in the future. What's certain is that the world would never be the same after a full eruption. Not only would the immediate blast and fallout devastate the surrounding areas, but the long-term effects of an eruption would be felt across the entire planet. Even if humanity were to somehow survive the initial disaster, the aftermath would be so devastating that it would take years, if not centuries, to recover. The environment would be decimated, resources would be scarce, and the threat of further eruptions would loom large. In the end, a full eruption of the Yellowstone supervolcano would be a true test of humanity's resilience. It would be a fight for survival against all odds, a struggle to rebuild in the face of unimaginable devastation. Only time would tell if humanity would emerge from the ashes stronger than ever before, or whether it would be wiped out forever. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe for more exciting content like this. Thanks for watching.